Hello, listeners. Welcome to this evening's edition of Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Lesley and Corey.
Hello, everybody.
Unlocking Your Truth is a talk show about metaphysics and spirituality, and we always talk about a topic under that umbrella. We are broadcasting on 101.7 FM across the Fraser Valley. We do that every Tuesday from 7 to 8 Pacific time from CIVL, which is a radio station here in the Fraser Valley. And they are located on the unceded territory of the Stolo Nation. We also, in the same time slot, Tuesdays from 7 to 8 Pacific, pre-record the show. And we do this while we live stream on the Awaken Your Psychic Abilities Facebook group and my Dr. Lesley Phillips YouTube channel. We do that because we enjoy having a live audience, and we welcome anyone who wants to come and listen to the show while we are recording it. It makes for a fun show. It makes for a slightly unpredictable show because you get to ask your questions and you never know what you're going to ask.
Unpredictable.
That's the whole fun of it. The show's been going for over 7 years, which means there's over 350 episodes, and they are available on all the major podcasting platforms. There's a veritable library of spiritual information, all accessible to you, all at your fingertips. And if you go to drlesleyphillips.com and you click on podcasts, you can search for anything that boggles your mind, really. And you'll get a show that talks about that topic. And if you don't, then you must write to us and tell us you've never done a show on ... And you know what? We'll do it. So
we should have a contest. We should have a contest, do a giveaway on something, and for if you can find a topic that's pertinent that we've never done, we'll get you a book or a card deck or something.
That's a really good idea. I think we should. That's a really good idea. I think we should do that. Definitely. Well, at the moment, I'm wanting to open up a little bit of a series. Every once in a while, we do a podcast series. We've done, in the past, we've done a series on meditation with at least 10 episodes. We've done a series on chakras and intuition with at least 20 episodes, probably. And there are other series as well. So you can almost put yourself through a little, I was going to say training course or a little education piece on things that you're really interested in. And I am getting ready to teach a channeling course. And so I want to have a little bit of a series about channeling. And so this week, I'm going to share a channeled message from one of my guides. And next week, I actually might share a channeled message from one of my students who's been learning to channel. So that'll be kind of interesting. All right, so now it's funny, I was talking to some ladies the other day who were also channelers, and they were telling me what their guides' names were and what they did. And I said, well, yes, I channel as well. And they said, well, we didn't see that on your website. And it's not on my website. It's not on my website because I have lots of different guides for different purposes. And my web, it just kind of it's kind of complicated, right? So I have a different guide for energy healing. I have a different guide that I do DNA work with, actually 2 guides. And I have, multiple guides for different things. So the one that I'm starting to share a message with in public is I call Numan. And Numan you can think of as a higher dimensional consciousness, a highly evolved consciousness, who's channeling messages for the evolution of humanity. Some of my guides are extraterrestrials. My main healing guide is, associated with the star system Sirius. But this one, who I call Numan, is more of a higher dimensional consciousness. And I have shared 1 or 2 messages from Numan before, and I think we might start doing it a bit more frequently. And the other thing is, I didn't necessarily ask a question to get this channeling, although I did at the end, because last week somebody asked a question on the show. And I don't think we were disrespectful to the question, but we kind of laughed and said, a lady asked about the eclipse, and we kind of laughed and said, oh, what eclipse? So I asked my guide at the end of this channeling to give us some information about planetary alignments and that kind of thing. So I think it was Shelby who asked the question, so I hope that you are listening. All right, so this is a channeling from 2 days ago. And this is what it says. The earth is shifting and humans are changing too. Your consciousness is becoming more malleable and more flexible so that you can experience non-linear, multi-dimensional reality. The biggest guidance we can give you is don't get stuck on anything. Allow the new experiences without resisting them. There literally isn't time to pause and figure things out the way you used to. By the time you explain it to yourself, things have already gone beyond the thing you stopped and paused to explain. Qualities to cultivate at this time include trusting, accepting, and allowing. Imagine you are suspended in midair in a wind tunnel. Now imagine that the wind, instead of being air, is reality shifting. That's kind of an interesting visual, isn't it? You're suspended in a wind tunnel and the wind is rushing past, except actually what's rushing past is reality. This is where you and your planet are right now. It's very exciting as long as you go with it. I guess if you go against it and start resisting it, then it's probably a bit more challenging. Struggling against it is a bit like a man standing in quicksand. He becomes even more trapped in a limited reality. The old earth truly is dissolving and a new earth is being born. It's more like a coming forward of a potential that's always been here, one form of expression giving rise to or making way for another. These earth changes are also part of a greater cosmic cycle, which includes the earth in relation to the larger cosmos and the greater cosmic consciousness. Signposts embedded in your reality are many. On an individual level, you see number sequences, which are awakening codes, and symbols to make you aware of your shifting reality. On a collective level, you see the old ways exposed as not working, and new systems are forming to take their place. On a cosmic level, there are planetary and other cosmic alignments which push and pull like levers on your consciousness. They change you, they change your planet, inviting you to move into a new era of peace. If you pay close attention to the world inside you, you will notice that you don't experience time as you did before. Your reality is no longer linear. It can be experienced more as an event-based reality where you occupy certain scenes. And while your clock time may show a day or a week has elapsed, Experientially, there is little time and space between them, so that they no longer seem like separate events, but one eternal experience. A creative space that you occupy outside of time, if you will. When you use clock time, it no longer feels equally spaced between years, months, weeks, hours, minutes, or seconds. A week can feel like a year, a day can feel like a month, and paradoxically, the days and weeks pass quickly, even though the content held within them feels immense. Your memory of the past and past time events is not as solid as it once was. It feels like an elusive dream that you struggle to keep hold of as you wake up in each new moment. The present moment can feel hyper-real if you are grounded and anchor yourself here, or it can feel as though nothing is real if you don't ground and anchor yourself here. As you open to multidimensional awareness, you can start to feel overwhelmed, fragmented, or even insane. You must learn to hold both infinite awareness and momentary focus as coexisting states of consciousness. This is in part what Jesus meant when he said, "Be in the world, but not of the world." In the higher dimensions of consciousness, you can have simultaneous experiences in multiple timelines all together, all at once. You can participate in them without needing them to be one at a time. Your larger being is already doing this. Your human aspect is beginning to get a glimpse of this now, after being segregated for millennia. This separation is not a weakness of the human. It was intentional and natural. You chose it to have an intense focus in duality because this is a great mechanism for expansion. Pinched off from the greater cosmos, in ignorance of your infinite being, you created an illusory world where cause and effect were separated by time and space. Then you traveled along your linear path making choices. Like a labyrinth or maze, you sometimes reached dead ends or came face to face with the monster in the labyrinth. It seemed like this was done to you, but it was done by you. And the monsters were you looking in the mirror, and the challenges were you fighting with yourself. But you couldn't see this at first until you finally started learning. Everything in your life is caused by you. In fact, everything is you, but then that's another story. In the old reality, you were in the maze. In the new reality, you will be able to have a bird's eye view of the maze. So you'll be able to consider different routes and actions and choose what excites you most, because you will be more connected with your higher being who already has that perspective. Okay, and now last week, a listener, this is me, last week a listener asked, how should we prepare for the eclipse? And this is the answer I got. The answer is the eclipse is an opportunity for expanded awareness. It is a potential portal or threshold crossing event, should you choose to use it in that way. And I think there's another one on the 5th or 6th of May, by the way. Okay, so it's a potential portal or threshold crossing event, should you choose to use it in that way. Some of you will and some of you won't. You don't need to prepare specifically unless you personally would like to do a ceremony or a ritual, and that's a personal choice or preference that you can make. You won't lose out if you don't do this, because you are immersed in the energies of the changing world, and you've already chosen the new earth train, or not, depending on the person. You can use the energy patterns of the cosmos to help you anchor your new consciousness if you wish. But it's happening anyway, and there are other permission slips that you could choose. We will say this: if many of you choose to focus together, it is very powerful indeed. So the idea of meditating on specifically chosen days as a group works wonders. and meditating to anchor certain energies that are more powerful or more easily accessible during an astrological alignment or event are signs that you are consciously choosing a certain path together as a mass consciousness. In love and light, we bid you farewell. So that is the message for today. I hope you enjoyed it, listeners. So it's probably coming up to a good time for a break.
Not quite.
Then we can have a discussion and answer questions after that.
Yeah, that was excellent, Dr. Lesley. Like,
Thank you.
how long do your sessions usually last with Numan and your entities like that?
It varies. I would say half an hour to an hour, probably. That was a short one. That's probably half an hour at the most. Well, actually, no, it can't, because it didn't take me very long to read it out, did it? 20 minutes.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is it varies, but I wouldn't sit channeling for longer than an hour.
No.
In general, I don't stay in a trance state for longer than an hour.
How does it affect you physically?
It makes me feel I feel a sense of bliss. And I feel very happy, because in order to do that, one has to get into an elevated state of consciousness. One has to raise one's frequency, and one's raising one's frequency into the realms of, what we would call unconditional love, bliss, ecstasy. You can't experience something that you're not the vibration of. So I would say it, while I'm doing it, I'm feeling happy. if that, and then, I mean, I guess after I've finished, I go back to my normal 3D physical reality perspective. And that's one of the things that's important to learn if you're doing channeling, is how to navigate those states of consciousness. Because if you stay in a trance state and try to walk around your ordinary reality, it'll be a bit like you're drunk. Trip over things and crash around.
Not make sense when you're talking to your friends and relatives. And
we wouldn't be on the
partners.
same wavelength,
Yeah,
it's literally a different wavelength.
it's one
Different
of those
frequency.
planet Earth to Dr. Lesley.
When I was at university, I've had a few nicknames over my time, but they used to call me Planet Lesley. They recognized then I was a bit different.
Your profoundness.
Yeah.
Okay, now it's time for a break, Dr. Lesley.
Great. We'll be back after these messages, listeners. Welcome back to Unlocking Your Truth. And tonight we shared a channeled message from one of my guides, and we're starting to talk a bit more about channeling, because we're leading up to doing a channeling course. And so we want to get all primed and prepared for that and get everybody excited about it. And I think, channeling is something that everybody can do. It is, and actually it's something that we are doing all the time. It's just, is what you're channeling actually useful? Because I'll give you a funny example, but so we're all here channeling ourselves. The personality that we have is a channeled personality. It's a fragment of your greater being. It's an arrangement of different characteristics. And sometimes we're not completely ourselves. And another example would be if you've ever said something and you go, oh my goodness, I sound like my mother, or I did that just like my dad. That's kind of you doing a form of channeling, really. And so, we all do it. An artist who's in that state of, when they're just in the flow of their creativity, that's a form of channeling. A musician who is in the middle of a beautiful piece of music, it's a form of channeling. A writer who is writing, could be a novel or could be even a work of nonfiction that is bringing forward a new perspective, or a perspective on a subject with their particular flavor, can be a form of channeling. And so, again, I always say everyone's intuitive, everyone has psychic abilities, everyone can channel. Everyone can channel, and everyone can, it's not some, I don't know, I was going to say, like, it's not so out of reach as you might think. Let's say it that way. So I'd love to hear any comments from our listeners that are listening live, or even any questions from them. Be happy to entertain that.
I think one of the things that hits me when I listen to things like that, and that's the term consciousness. And I don't know, sometimes I feel that one person's definition of consciousness is not always another person's definition of consciousness, let alone, an entity as far advanced as Numan is concerned. Like, could define consciousness in your own terms.
That's a really good question. I've actually been working on a consciousness map for my my channeling course. To me, consciousness is everything, and everything is consciousness. It's sort of this, consciousness is the substance that underpins all creation. Consciousness is God or source expressing itself through form and in different ways. So consciousness is the am that I am. Ultimately, I am a spark of divine consciousness. And the spark of the divine consciousness that I am is holographic in that it's me in my unique individual aspect of God, but it's also me connected to everything else. And I would say the work that I do and I teach, there's really only two things: energy and consciousness. So when we're healing, we're working with energy and we're directing energy with our consciousness. When we're doing a reading, we are adjusting our energy frequency and connecting our consciousness, using our consciousness to observe things, observe energies, and communicate about them. So consciousness is a fundamental underlying principle of everything. Maybe that's a way of saying it. And it's different. So your consciousness is different than your brain. It's different than your intellect. It's different than your thoughts. And so, is it René Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. I would say you can exist without thought. Thought is a human thing. And so we often sort of define ourselves by this collection of human things, our thoughts, our beliefs. But you are beyond thought and belief and feeling. There is an isness. There is an eternal isness to you, and that's your consciousness. And your consciousness is not inert. It has what we say, like a kind of propulsion or attraction or desire that allows it to move through realities and create. In my map of consciousness, and I think I might do a little primer or one-on-one workshop in the leading up to the channeling course. What I'm trying to explain to people is, because often what people say when they want to take a channeling course is, oh, well, I want to speak to the angels, or I want to know who my guides are and I want to speak to my guides. But they tend to project onto the idea of the angels and the guides. They project onto them in the form of them being human, like a human. And they're not like a human. And so as humans, we are in this realm that I've labeled on my diagram as self-consciousness. Third density reality, where we are learning to become self-aware. So many humans are not self-aware. They're asleep, kind of. They're operating on unconscious levels. But the human being is on a path to become consciously aware, to awaken, to become self-conscious. And we have that experience as separated individuals. This is me, I'm asleep, or I'm starting to become aware of myself, and I'm waking up. And as we rise in consciousness, and as we become more aware and more awake, then we can open to communicating with these higher, more evolved forms of consciousness. But the higher up in frequency and vibration we go, the less like us that they are. And so we start to communicate with these higher density realities. You're no longer talking to an individual. You're talking to, you could be talking to an individual that doesn't have the same concept as its relationship to other individuals as you do, not so separate, sort of sees their group that they belong to as they relate to each other through harmony. I wouldn't say humans do that yet. But then you go even further up, then you're looking at collective consciousness, you're looking at group consciousness levels. You're looking at beings that identify themselves as we, as a collective, as a council, as a group. And then beyond that, you're starting to connect with completely undifferentiated aspects. And so we want to label them and we want to categorize them. But actually what we're connecting with is consciousness that's not limited in the same way that we are.
I have a question. You sort of answered my question, but yet not complete. Like consciousness, if you qualify consciousness as godness, or
spirit. I kind of use it interchangeably with the word spirit, but not many people use the word spirit, so I've started using consciousness instead.
Yeah. So consciousness is consciousness. Spirit is spirit. Spirit doesn't expand or contract. If I'm thinking along the right lines, it just gives you more access to more information that's out there. Am I correct in assuming that?
Okay, that- so the comment spirit doesn't expand or contract. That's true, but it can have the experience of expanding or contracting. So we, as humans, we've actually got the experience of contracting. You know, they call us the masters of limitation because we're sort of contracted and focused and in on the present moment, whereas actually our true consciousness is infinite and
Exactly,
connects
yeah.
to everything. And so as we evolve within ourselves, as we awaken within ourselves, we can have the experience of expanding because we can have the experience of connecting with more and more and more and more. And we already are connected with that more and more and more and more, but we just don't know it from our human perspective. So we wake up to it. And it feels like we're expanding.
So I think one of the searches that we as human beings do is somehow looking to learn how to achieve higher consciousness. But in actuality, you're not really looking to achieve higher consciousness. You're looking to achieve different consciousness.
There's two ways of answering that. Is on one way of answering that is to say you're looking to reveal more of yourself to yourself because actually you are all of it. So part of the path is a path of revelation. But another way of answering that is, yeah, it's frequency based. And so if you're operating in third density human consciousness, there's a range of frequencies that you're operating in, right? But if you want to connect to a higher dimensional collective consciousness, you can't do it from here. You can't do it from here. You have to become more like them to be able to do it. And so, yeah, you have to change your perspective, change your frequency.
Yeah, I understand that, but I think a lot of people think that this path of searching for a higher consciousness is a growth. How can I put this? Is a growth, but more conceptually along a physical manner. You know, we're all looking to expand. Yeah, linear, bigger. They want to be bigger, but it's not bigger. It's just I don't even know if the word deeper is correct. It's just like you say, your frequency is enhanced, but if you're looking at frequency being, because frequency has height and breadth, you know, frequency changes.
You're talking like the amplitude of the wave.
Yeah, amplitude and height. But that's not exactly how you would say you're expanding your frequency in this sense.
We're talking about vibrating faster or slower.
But not measurable. Not in the physical.
Well, some of it's measurable. So they have done some work on brain frequencies. And if you go to the alpha, beta, delta, theta brain waves and gamma brain waves, right? Gamma brain waves are fast. And when they've hooked up channelers to machines that measure brain waves, they are in gamma. And it's interesting because it's kind of like all the people who learn hypnotism or, transcendental meditation they're aiming for slowed down brain waves. And it's kind of the opposite that you need to do to channel higher vibrational frequencies. You need to match the frequency, you need to go faster. So, but yeah.
So in that case, I just have one more question, then we'll go to a quick break, and then I've got some questions from our folks. So in that case, taking drugs slows the physical nature of you down in a lot of cases. So will that enhance or decrease the ability to increase your frequency?
I couldn't really answer that. I think different drugs are different, and different people are different. And so, you know, you'd have to talk about a specific drug, because some drugs, different drugs have different effects, and they have different effects physiologically. But there are experiences that people have, like ayahuasca, where they have spiritual experiences and they meet spiritual beings and communicate with spiritual beings. But what I would say is, I mean, I think that helps people have breakthroughs, but it's almost like, you know, you can go on a weekend doing that and be in an extreme high, and then you come back to normal reality. And there can even be a little bit of a crash from that. But I would say that you can alter your brain chemistry, your brain structure, your brain frequency through meditation, and that is a more sustainable way to do it, and a gentler way. It's like, do you want to use a hammer, or what would be a gentler way than a hammer? I don't know, but you get the idea.
Thank you, Dr. Lesley. That's time for a break, folks. Take a quick break and we'll be back. Right, Dr. Lesley?
Yeah. Unless we go to another dimension. Welcome back, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Unlocking Your Truth this evening, where we've been sharing a channeled message, talking about channeling, talking about consciousness, and now it's that part of the show where we love to answer our readers' questions.
We do.
We do, if there are any.
Yes, there are some. Tracy says, when you are channeling, do you decide who you want to channel, or do you simply set the intention that you want to speak to an entity or a group?
Both. Both. I have certain ones that I talk to more often, and I might set the intention to talk to them. Like for example, my main healing guide, I call him Get Serious. Because it's kind of funny, and it also is a nod to the fact that I associate him with the star system of Sirius. I work with him every day. I talk to him every day. He's present in most of the sessions that I do, especially the healing sessions. And then, you know, I have other ones that I might talk to because, I don't know, I'm fascinated by what they do. I want to learn more about what they do. Numan is, he's kind of like a messenger for human evolution, and I'm going to work with him more and more and more. But I would sit down and deliberately connect with his energy, for example. But other times I have, you know, taken my consciousness to different star systems, different planets, the center of the Milky Way galaxy. I've shared some channelings. I don't remember which ones I shared, but some of them were from the central sun of the Milky Way galaxy, or, you know, collective consciousness of, Sirius, and so sometimes I've just seen who drops in, being careful to make sure I'm at a high vibration and I'm being discerning about it. Other times I choose, so both.
Thank you. And folks, just a quick note, if you're enjoying this show, please give us a like or a thumbs up, or whichever you need to do on whichever, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook, just give us if you're enjoying the show. If you're not enjoying the show, that's fine too. Okay, this is from Omida. Omida says, how does it work when you're communicating with your own higher self? What level of consciousness is that? Sorry if the question's unclear.
No, it's not clear. It's not unclear. I would say that your higher consciousness is it's beyond a group consciousness, because it contains all of your past lives, all of your future lives, all of your parallel lives on other planets, everything about you, and so it is, I'm just trying to think of a word, even beyond collective consciousness. So it's starting to be, it's not God level, but it is a form of source which is expressing itself as many different projections. So hopefully that answers. I think it's a bit confusing. I'm kind of looking on my map and what I'd called it is superposition consciousness, but I can't remember why I called it superposition consciousness now. But I think it's the idea of being simultaneously in multiple realities all at once, and being a kind of blended consciousness. Hopefully that helps. Come to the workshop that I don't know when it is, but I will I'll put my map up and I'll talk about it.
Come anyway.
Come anyway.
Even if you don't know when it is.
Yes. Well, here's the thing. We're moving to this idea where we will flow more in a synchronicitous way, and we'll find ourselves in the right place at the right time. And so I'm just putting it out there for the right people to arrive, and we'll all come together in the right timing. And this is a workshop I'm going to do before the course, by the way, as a kind of introduction to the course.
So just a quick addition to Omida's question. She says, wow, I didn't realize that our own higher self-consciousness was so high. I assume it was more dense, just a few steps above our human consciousness.
Well, and I think, there's a lot of sort of, what's the word? I don't know whether the word is semantics, but different people will describe the same word with different meanings, won't they? And so, I'm talking about your ultimate higher being, more like an oversoul level.
I think I understand what Amita is saying. I think a lot of people, this is one of the points I was trying to get to a little bit earlier. I don't think a lot of people truly understand the power of their conscious nature. They don't understand that this, like, people say, oh yeah, I've got a part of God in me, but to understand that you have a part of God in you, and that you are this part of God nature or universal nature, or the soul, the power that you have within your being is unlimited in a sense.
Yeah, I think
If you can attach it, if you can get to it, if you can get fully imbibed in it.
I think any of us can completely grasp it and understand it. We can talk in language that points at the idea. Even the people that sort of like me sit there and spout about it, you know. But you're right, you know, I was talking to somebody, my last session today, I was talking to somebody who felt completely disempowered, who had no idea that she had any power at all. And so, yeah, I mean, I think many humans are separated from their power.
Oh, no question. No question. Um, I don't know if they're separated from their power, but they're blinded to their power
Yeah, they are
because
exactly.
they still have that power within them. It's just they're blind to it.
Then exactly.
They have a veil.
You know,
again.
yes, they see themselves as a victim, they see themselves as unworthy, they see life as something that's happening to them. Instead of that, they are this brilliant creator being that the universe arranges itself around.
Okay, Monoto Maiden says, and she has a few comments here. One of the comments, she said, "My brain moves at the speed of light." Well, almost. Now, her question is, do you think some are born with the natural ability to communicate with them? And I'm presuming entities and spirit.
So, yes, I actually think we all have that capacity because it's who we are. So I often say that your physical senses, you have them to help you navigate physical reality. Your intuitive senses, you have them to help you navigate non-physical reality. And that's our natural state. We're all spirit, we're all consciousness. So we all have the ability to communicate as spirit. When we're born into human form, babies are still quite connected with that spirit realm, but then a couple of things happen. One is that they have to orient to being in the physical realm. They have to orient to using their physical senses more because they find themselves in a physical body in the physical realm. And it is very all-consuming to be here in a body like that. So there's a natural process where they're just naturally moving to that. And then we have our culture and our education system and all of the religious indoctrination that we put our children through. And then we say, well, intuition, what a silly thing. You've got to be clever, you've got to be brainy, you've got to, you know, whatever it is. And so depending on where you're born and who you're born to, then you also get this extensive programming to focus even more away from your natural intuitive inclinations. So I think we all have it, but we don't all choose it as a path. You know, some people are perfectly happy, and there's nothing wrong with it, to live their life not focused on that because they have a different theme that's just not intuition. Whereas other people, that's their passion, that's what they want to do, and then they can develop it to a great degree. I mean, we block ourselves in different ways. I don't think that there's anybody that has ever joined one of my classes that hasn't been able to access their intuition. And I would say I've even gone into corporate environments like law firms and groups of social workers and nurses, and just being successful with those people as well in giving them a taste of their intuition. So we all have it, we just don't all choose it.
Thank you. Okay, this is from Brian. Brian says, I have an unrelated question, Dr. Lesley, but something I'm curious about. Last night, I felt something leave me. I felt it on different levels, including physically, but I don't know what it was. but I was very aware of it and I feel different. I wonder if you wouldn't mind looking at that for me.
Yeah, well, and that could be different things. It could be energy, could even be a being. um, well, it it looks like some kind of construct that you are operating from. And I mean, I kind of see it in the form of what could have been a past life. It looks like a kind of almost like a Knights Templar style thing. But I think it's representing a particular mindset, belief system, energy that you are operating from, that you are letting go of. And it feels like it's part of moving into allowing things to come to you with a greater sense of ease and not having to fight for them or work hard for them. That this is a sort of a construct that defends, protects, fights for, is justified, these kind of things. And that you are moving into more of well, I just need to open to receive. So you just let go of a chunk of kind of like your own energy that you just not choosing to operate from anymore.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Lesley. This is from Maida again. She says, my daughter talks a lot about remembering being consciousness without a body, especially from ages 3 to 5. She's now 6. She would share vivid memories of being consciousness and being around during various stages of the Earth's evolution. She draws about it. It gives me chills. She talks about it with such certainty. I try and foster and validate that as much as I can. What can I do to continue to help her develop, maintain her connection? I don't want her to lose it as she gets older and becomes more socialized. She also shares that she feels she's not from this planet, but loves this planet and is here to do specific tasks. She says
Yeah.
she feels distressed that she can't remember all of the details of the spiritual tasks that she set out to do in this lifetime. It's a lot for a child to be thinking about. Would you be willing to take a look at this for her? Her name is
Well,
Kalila.
on the one hand, yes. On the other hand, I had another lady today message me on Facebook with almost exactly the same question. And I said to Corey, we should do a show on that.
I think it'd be a great idea.
We should do a show on that. We did a show probably 7 years ago about children. And I think my perspective on it has shifted since that show. And we've changed, and the children have changed as well. And so I want to do a whole show about that whole subject, because you're not the only one with a child that's having those types of experiences that's asking, how do I help them? I mean, I can take a really quick look now. How long have we got left on the show, Con?
Well, we're just about done.
Yeah, because I want to do this. I want to do it justice. That's why I want to dedicate a whole show to it. But I think that you can do what you've been doing and validate, because I think in the past, a lot of parents would go, it's just your imagination. You'll grow out of it. It's not, but, validate her experiences as real and explain to her what I just said a little bit earlier, that, yeah, when we're out, sometimes we have bodies, sometimes we don't have bodies. When we choose to have bodies, sometimes we just hide part of ourselves. We play hide and seek with ourselves, and we've not lost any of it. We're just pretending that we have. Something like that, something in a way that she would, some of these concepts that she would understand, but reassure her that she hasn't lost that information. And that part of the human journey is a bit like a story, like a fairy story she might read, that, you know, the heroine's journey is unfolding. And if she knew everything, she wouldn't have the same journey, and she wants to surprise herself. And she wouldn't be surprised if she kept her memory of everything. I'd just figure out something like that. That, you know, she could understand on the level of a 6-year-old. Hope that's helpful. I'll think about it some more and we'll do a show on it.
That's it, Dr. Lesley.
Thank you, everybody who came this evening. Yeah, and we'll do that contest. Find something that we've never talked about and win something if you can.
Okay, bye-bye now, folks.
Bye, everybody.